What's up, YouTube? Today we're going to be taking a look at the Ultra League Summer Cup Edition, and the team that we're going to be taking a look at today includes XL level 51 Whimsicott. That's right, this thing is a Hundo Best Buddy boosted. It is a Grass Fairy type, making it extremely unique in this meta because it walls VIRIZION with Double Kick, Sacred Sword, and Leaf Blade, as well as Bellibolt, which is running Sucker Punch and 2 electric charge moves, usually Zap Cannon and Parabolic Charge. So this thing being a unique wall seemed really cool to me, so I wanted to give it a try. So we've got 2 Pokemon in the back that roughly cover its weaknesses. We've got Barbaracle and Shadow Empoleon. So without further ado, let's hop right into these battles. Okay, in the first match, we've got a Feraligatr lead. This is an okay lead because we outpace them to the Ice Beam. You see it takes 6 fast moves to get to the Grass Knot, and Grass Knot would probably nearly one-shot the non-Shadow. However, they CMP time me, which means this cannot be an Ice Beam. In fact, it's just a Crunch. So my opponent going for a resisted Crunch instead of a resisted Hydro. They then come in with a Skeledirge, and we have a fantastic answer in Barbaracle. We can live one Shadow Ball, so we will let one go, and these Incinerates are double resisted. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to overfarm as much as I can, and now pick up the knockout with the Stone Edge. I don't expect my opponent to shield because they don't really have any way of flipping this matchup, but they actually do. But this is also only enough for a Torch Song, so I'm going to let it go. That is double resisted damage, and I can still outpace them to the next charge move, which means here comes another super effective Stone Edge. It nearly picks up the knockout. They try and commit to the farm down. They're not quite going to get there, so they pivot back into the Feraligatr. So now here comes a cross chop, and we do go down. But now we have the alignment that we need. It looks like we may have got 1 turn lag when we came in there, but that is fine. We can take any 1 charge move here. Hydro Cannon is resisted damage, does not do all that much. Overfarming as much as we can, now going for the Grass Knot to pick up the knockout. And what is in the back? Does my opponent want to show their third? No, they want to come in with the Skeledirge. I don't know what their third is yet, so I will commit 1 shield in case it's like a Virizion in the back and go for the Fairy Wind down. What is in the back? It is a Venusaur, so not worthy of the shield, unfortunately, but we switched fast enough that we should be in a pretty good situation here. Vine Whips and Frenzy are all neutral, but I will respect the Frenzy because it would hurt. And now I'm going to overfarm just a little bit, and hopefully I can pick up the knockout with a super effective Drill Peck from the Shadow Empoleon. Actually doesn't quite knock out, but my opponent tries to get to back-to-back moves. They can't get there. They end up throwing on the CMP tie, but Empoleon wins the CMP, and Drill Peck from this range will be able to pick up the knockout, and we do win that first game. Into the next match, we've got Whimsicott into Golisopod. This is a neutral matchup, but it is a neutral matchup that Whimsicott loses, that Golisopod wins just because it has a pacing advantage, and 2 X Scissors are enough to one-shot, are enough to 2-shot, whereas it's awkward. You can't like 2-shot Grass Knot, so I end up going for a Moonblast and then pivoting into my Barbaracle. My opponent ends up throwing energy when they get to the back-to-back charge moves, so I actually CMP tie them there with the Cross Chop, and Cross Chop from this range will be able to pick up the knockout, especially since we got the attack drop. We actually take even less damage on our Barbaracle there. In comes the Tapu Koko, end up throwing on alignment there, which is pretty unfortunate, but I am able to connect with a Stone Edge, grab that first shield from my opponent. Can I get to another charge move? Not quite, but that is okay. I can come back in with the Whimsicott. It's a Credilli in the back, and we have a fantastic answer to Credilli and Empoleon. We actually switched fast enough that we were even able to outpace the Credilli and CMP tie them with the Hydro Cannon on the either Grass Knot or Rock Tomb. My opponent does full send a Grass Knot, but here on out, all I have to do is consistently CMP tie them and shield up if they shield up, and just always match shields. So here comes a Hydro on the CMP tie. My opponent lets that go, saving their shield for the Tapu Koko. Can we get to another charge move? Not quite, but that is okay because Whimsicott, while it does wall the fast move damage here, we do not wall Nature's Madness, but even though they've overfarmed over 100 energy, all we have to do is make it to back-to-back charge move before my opponent makes it to back-to-back charge moves of their own, and it looks like we will be able to outpace Tapu Koko just a little bit slow with that Volt Switch. So here comes 1 Grass Knot. My opponent realizes I'm at the back-to-back moves, so they let that go, and we are able to grab a second win. Into next match, picking up a good lead, or what should be a good lead. We have a Mudboy on the lead, but unfortunately, Swampert this season has Sludge, and Sludge is double super effective damage from a Shadow Swampert. Guess what? I've tested it. It basically one-shots. It leaves the Whimsicott on 1 HP. They end up making a nice catch onto a Bellibolt, but my opponent seems to be core broken by the Whimsicott. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stay in this matchup. This is the matchup where I find out that Whimsicott actually loses CMP to the Bellibolt, and that's just the CP differential there, I think. Even though this is best buddy boosted and a hundo, it only gets up to 2304 CP. That said, I can live any charge move here, so I will just let this go for farm on the Whimsicott, because I know this Grass Knot energy will be useful into the Swampert. I am going to click the move as soon as I get it. And that Swampert will have to commit a shield. That's exactly what they do. Can I outpace to another move? I can. So where do I go from here? I know Empoleon is a wall to energy, so I'm going to go for 2 more Fairy Winds, catch when they get to the back-to-back charge moves. And if we did catch a Sludge, it would be double resisted, but my opponent did go for the Hydro there, which means it is only single resisted. However, it still resists the damage. Empoleon holds on, and they have VIRIZION in the back. And VIRIZION is not going to like a double super effective Drill Peck from a Shadow Empoleon. Does it one-hit KO? It does. That is huge. Can we get to a charge move? We can. Living on 1 HP, able to get to the Hydro. This will do big damage. Shadow on Shadow picks up the knockout against the Swampert, and we are able to take that 3rd win. Okay, into next match, we've got Whimsicott into VIRIZION, finally finding one of our targets once again. VIRIZION is completely walled in this matchup. They end up pivoting into a Typhlosion, and we respond with Barbaracle. I will end up just going for the cross-chop bait, hoping my opponent doesn't know Barbaracle counts, and they end up committing the shield, so that is super clutch. We can survive 1 Thunder Punch here. It is super effective damage, but they're at the back-to-back, so I'm committing the shield in the first one in case it was a Solar Beam nuke. I didn't want to discredit my opponent. Potentially they're running that crazy spice, but once they only overfarmed 3 by 1, I know it could only be the Thunder Punch, so I will let the second one go. And now here comes a second Stone Edge. Can my opponent get to the full farm down? It looks like not quite, so I'm going to commit the shield. I know I can maintain switch here because we got off 1 successful bait. They end up pivoting back into the VIRIZION. I instantly pivot back into my Whimsicott, and now all I have to do is overfarm here. My opponent is on Stone Edge, which is the recommended moveset on PvPoke, which means that they can hit for neutral damage in this matchup. However, Moonblast is super effective damage. It picks up the knockout. Are they going to come back with Typhlosion? They are. So here comes a Grass Knot coming their way. Grass Knot is resisted damage, but it does not look it. And now all I have to do is come in with my Barbaracle. I'm going to sacrifice it here so that Empoleon can sweep in the back. Empoleon has very unique typing. That means it's pretty good into the majority of the meta. And we find a target in Skeledirge. Here comes a Shadow, super effective stab Hydro Cannon onto the Skeledirge. And it lives on 1 HP, but surely my super effective damage does more than their neutral damage, right? No, Shadow Ball takes out Empoleon, and just the glassiness of Empoleon ends up costing us that game. Into the next match, we've got Whimsicott into a Stunfisk, which is a fantastic lead. My opponent safe switches into a Acid Credilli, which means their fast move is double resisted here on the Empoleon, and we can live 1 charge move. They also have to go for Grass Knot because it's neutral as opposed to Rock Tomb, which is resisted. And of course, my opponent was walled on the lead, which is why they had to get out of that matchup. Both electric and ground resisted on Whimsicott's typing. This time they do go for the Rock Tomb, but I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to overfarm, play to the CMP tie. I know Hydro Cannon, even with my attack debuffed, will still be able to pick up the knockout here. And my opponent actually commits both shields, so now I just have to be wary of a catch, but a super effective Hydro Cannon catch would be fine with me. So I'm going to overfarm. They end up coming in with the Stunfisk, but I'm already at the back-to-back moves, so I may as well chip them with one of them. And now that will put it in 1 Grass Knot range, which will be nice because of course they are walled here. And what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to overfarm. I know my opponent has no fast move pressure into me, or charge move pressure for that matter, so I will just go for a Grass Knot, playing to the CMP tie, picking up that knockout with the Grass Knot, and now if the Credilli comes back in, I'll be able to outpace to my own Grass Knot and pick up the knockout there. And that's exactly what happens. They come back with a Credilli. Of course, these acids are double super effective, but goodbye Credilli, there's a Grass Knot, and what is in the back? We have 3 Pokemon left, and it is a Ferrothorn. And I don't know if you've looked at this team, but this team is triple weak to Ferrothorn, so this could be a very difficult matchup. But Moonblast is single resisted here, so I will go for the harder hitting Moonblast. And the only thing that they can hit me with for super effective damage is Flash Cannon or Mirror Shot. So they end up going for a Power Whip and a Farm Down, but that allows me to connect with a second Moonblast. I have a charge move banked on my Empoleon, so here comes a neutral Drill Peck. That puts it at 1 HP. They throw their energy right away, which means they're 2 fast moves away from another Power Whip, which means I can come in with my Barbaracle, get the Fury Cutter Farm Down before they can make it to another Power Whip, and we are able to take that win, even though we are triple weak to that Pokemon. Terrible lead in the next match. We've got another Pokemon that we are triple weak to on this team, and it is a Shadow Magnezone. However, Magnezone takes a lot of resisted damage, so here comes a Moonblast that does over 50%, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to catch on a suspected Flash Cannon or Mirror Shot because they farmed up to 5, and it is the Mirror Shot. Now they're going to overfarm here. They do have enough for the Wild Charge, so I am going to respect this damage. I know that I can outpace if they full send, and I am going to now go for the Cross Chop to pick up the knockout. Will my opponent commit the shield back? They will, and then they're going to pivot into a Gliscod. Can I make it to the Stone Edge? I can. That is huge. This will hit for massive super effective damage. Does my opponent commit the shield? They don't. They actually let that go, which is massive because now I can let this go, and we have virtually neutralized the Gliscod here. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to get a slight energy lead on which Pokemon. I'm going to come in with my Empoleon, get the Metal Claw farm down. Are they going to come back in with that Magnezone? They are. I'm going to farm up 2 Steel Wings, go for a catch. I don't quite get it, but my opponent ends up overfarming too much, allowing me to get to the extra energy on the Whimsicott. Here comes a double super effective Grass Knot onto a Mudboy in the back, the Swampert. They realize I have way too much energy and they're not going to be able to outpace, so they let that go, and we are able to take the win. Into the next match, Virizion once again. So we have found our target again, and my opponent is staying in this matchup, so they are severely core broken, and the fact that they're staying in this matchup makes me think that I can bait here. They need to get rid of this Whimsicott, and they need to shield up everything, so I do end up baiting with a Grass Knot. I will commit the shield back, and it is the Stone Edge, so my opponent isn't completely walled, and they actually have an Acid Victory Belt in the back. So I'm going to do the exact same thing as a Credilli. I'm going to come in with my Empoleon, where Acid is double resisted. I know I can live one charge move. My opponent's doing a little bit something funky here. I don't know if they're lagging like crazy, or if they're doing something a little fishy, because they actually, every single time they throw a charge move here, you'll notice that it just waits and waits and waits and waits and waits, and this happened every single time they threw a charge move. So I was like, what's going on? And that actually allows them to come back in with the Virizion, because the switch timer took way longer than it should have, or way less time than it should have, because of that extra time in between. But I am still able to pick up the knockout onto the Virizion, but I one-shot it. But now I'm in a very tricky situation because they have double super effective damage into both my Pokemon in the back. So I'm going to come back with my Barbaracle, and then I pivot into my Whimsicott. This is double resisted Grass Knot, but it still picks up the knockout, so that is huge, and it is a Feraligatr in the back. Can we survive a Hydro Cannon from this range is the question. And the answer is no from the Shadow, which is unfortunate, but we can survive any one charge move here, and I know that Stone Edge will do massive damage, even though it is only neutral. It is stab on Barbaracle, and Hydro Cannon doesn't quite do enough. I'm going to overfarm as much as I possibly can, maximizing the damage before I end up throwing this energy, but here comes the Stone Edge. It picks up the knockout, and we're still able to take that win, even though my opponent may have been doing something a little fishy there. Into the next match, Oranguru on the lead. So this is an interesting Pokemon, but when you really think about it, Oranguru's charge moves are Brutal Swing and Trailblaze. So I know that their charge moves are completely walled. However, Confusion is adding up onto the Whimsicott just a little bit, and Oranguru definitely has a bulk advantage in this matchup, so we're actually at very even health range right now. But now I'm going for the Moonblast. My opponent knows they could survive another Grass Knot, so they might let this go. And then I go for a catch onto my Barbarical, knowing that this is probably only going to be a Brutal Swing, and it is, which is nice. And then they respond with a Tentacruel. Tentacruel is by no means an answer to the Barbarical. Of course, Scald is neutral damage, but Acid, Poison Sting, whatever they're using, looks like Poison Sting here, is resisted damage. So now I'm going to go for the Stone Edge on the CMP tie with my opponent's next Scald. That way, if they want to commit the shield, they will, or if they want to throw this energy to take me out, they will have to fully charge it. And you'll notice I actually have Typhlosion in the back in this matchup. I think these last 3 battles do have Typhlosion, is when I was trying out the team, so just got a few extra bonus battles in here with Typhlosion. And a cool opponent in the very final match of the video, so look forward to that. But my opponent actually commits a shield on a very low HP Tentacruel, which I thought was a little bit odd, so I ended up committing the shield back. Maybe they're super weak to Typhlosion in the back, and the fact that they commit another shield clues me to the fact that they're very weak to Typhlosion in the back. So now I'm just going to go for the farm down. What is that Pokemon in the back that does not want to see Typhlosion? I guess we'll never know. My opponent resigns the match, and we are able to take that win. Another target found in the next match. We've got Whimsicott into Bellibolt. These Sucker Punches are resisted damage, and now here comes a Moonblast. My opponent actually catches the Moonblast onto their Skeleturge, which is a very nice catch, but I can just respond with Barbarical, and Barbarical double resisting these fast moves is gonna absolutely do a number on this Skeleturge. My opponent ends up committing the shield once again. I don't know why people are committing a shield in this matchup. It's not flippable by any means. So there is a Shadow Ball. Does some okay damage, but not enough. Here comes what I can only imagine, unless they're running Disarming Voice, which kudos to them, but if it's a Torch Song, it's double resisted, doesn't pick up the knockout, allows me to overfarm even more, and now I'm at another Stone Edge, which will 100% pick up the knockout, and my opponent ends up just letting that one go, so they end up losing Switch as well. They end up committing to the full farm down, which means I can also make it to a third Stone Edge here. Stone Edge does pretty massive damage to the Bellibolt, and now in comes the Whimsicott. We do get 1 turn lag on bring in, but that's fine. We are complete wall to energy here, and Parabolic Charge doesn't do that much. I don't know why they buffed their defense only to instantly pivot out. They do have a Lapras in the back, which as a water type is probably one of the better water types that we can see, because they take neutral damage from the Incinerates, and we have super effective Thunder Punches for this Lapras. It looks like I didn't see a Psywave go through there, so it looks like that was actually a CMP tie on the second Thunder Punch, which means this game is over, because even if the Sparkling Aria picks up the knockout, we've grabbed their final shield, so I can instantly pivot back into my Whimsicott. I'm going to be able to outpace here, so I'm just going to go for the Grass Knot when they make it to the back-to-back moves. My opponent ends up letting that go. Maybe we're trying to full send a Zap Cannon there, and we are able to take the win into the final match of the video against Rise to the Occasion, and we pick up a tough lead in Glisspot. Obviously, we've seen this matchup before. If you want to play to the ones, you could just go straight Grass Knot here, so I think that's what I was thinking about doing here. But after seeing how much damage a Grass Knot did, I was like, damn, I should have just gotten Moonblast and not committed the shields, because he's gonna win this in the zeros, and I will just end up letting this go and trying to get some extra farm on the Typhlosion for a shield in return. So, because I mean, our energy goes pretty much everywhere here on the Typhlosion, unless it's like a dragon in the back. And it is a dragon in the back and a Kingdra, but fortunately Kingdra is half water, so it takes neutral damage from the Thunder Punch. So I'm going to connect with one of them, and then I'm going to pivot into my Barbarical. They end up responding with a Galvantula here, which is an XL level 50 Pokemon, which is pretty insane. Now going for the Cross Chop bait. Does Rise call it? He does not. So now that will allow me to get to the Stone Edge. This will do massive super effective damage. Will he commit the shield? He does, and that's actually okay, because We can actually just commit to the farm down here, but he's already at back-to-back moves, so this puts me in a very difficult situation because I know he has energy on the Kingdra, so this forces me to throw my energy here, but I still have to make it to like 2 more Thunder Punches before he can get to the full farm down, and I just do not have the health to get there. So here comes a Thunder Punch. My opponent knows they can survive this, so they could just let this go, or they commit the shield. Or they don't have a shield, but we are still going to lose that game. So well played to rise to the occasion there. Very cool opponent to see in the 2300s. But yeah, I mean, Whimsicott, hey, it's a really cool core breaker. It's one of my favorite Pokemon to use in the Ultra League. It used to core break so many teams. There were so many like just Dragon plus water teams that I would see in the Ultra League in seasons past. I mean, that still exists today, just not to the same level. But Whimsicott looks to be like a really cool core breaker. Do I recommend building a level 51 Hundo Whimsicott for the Ultra League? Probably not. I mean, it's a really fun Pokemon to play, but realistically, it's just not top meta. I believe it's ranked in the like mid 200s for the Summer Cup, which is not great. Barbarical obviously ranked a lot higher. Empoleon's like low 100s, but still not great. So I don't recommend this team for climbing, but if you want to have some fun, this is a team you could do it with. Could you run like Tapu Bulu maybe? Maybe. I mean, you're running Bullet Seed instead of Fairy Wind, which could make things a little bit more tricky. You don't really have the fast move pressure on like Virizion, but it could still work. You've got Nature's Madness there, which is a great move. So, but yeah, that's gonna be it for me from this video. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, peace.